An unthinkable experience thousands of feet in the air. Imagine being on a flight, sitting in what turned out to be a blood-soaked area and then given supplies to clean it up. That's what freelance journalist Habib Battah says happened to him while he was on an Air France flight to Toronto last month. And he joins us live here this morning. Habib, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll start off with just how that day went, how it all unfolded, and how you came to realize that you were sitting really just above a pool of blood.
Yeah, it's out of a horror movie. I never expected that. I started smelling. It began with a smell. I knew something was wrong, and when I got up, I could see there was just this huge stain, and it was wet. I accidentally touched it, so I touched someone else's blood without knowing. And then the flight crew gave me some wet wipes.
And they told you exactly what happened as well. There was a passenger who had a medical situation before you were on board in that seat. So they were aware of the fact that this was there.
Somewhat. I think they had to call in. I think the pilot had to call in the ground to see what happened. I think there was a lot of ignorance on that flight, and there was a lot of ignorance on how to deal with it. You should never give a passenger wet wipes to deal with a biohazard. I should have been wearing protective gear. Someone else should have been doing that. Blood and feces, I later learned, it's a vector for disease. It's definitely very bad to touch that, and unsafe, unsanitary on an airplane when people are touching their faces and eating. It's very close quarters. This was a biohazard. The plane should have been taken out of service. The plane was just allowed to keep functioning and making profits for the company.
Now, what did Air France rather, tell you about why they kept the plane in service and why they continued to sell that particular seat rather than having you, let's say, board another flight to Toronto?
They really have no explanation. That's the most worrying part. They really don't have any. They're not taking this seriously. They said it was a minimal to non-existent risk. No doctor would agree that blood and feces is not a high-risk situation to be handling with your bare hands. It seems that no one is really taking it very seriously. I hope the Canadian government is now investigating. I hope someone is held accountable, and I hope this doesn't happen again. But as it stands today, it seems like this could easily happen again.
Now, did they offer you compensation? And if so, what was it? And did you think it was adequate?
No, initially they offered about 20% of the cost of the flight. So I called it a blood discount. I mean, who would want to go on a flight for 20% off to sit in blood and feces? So I've asked them to revisit their offer, and we'll see what happens.
Now, the Public Health Agency of Canada, they are investigating this at this point. What do you hope comes out of this investigation?
I just really hope that airlines develop some kind of procedures to deal with biohazard. I think it's really strange that these aircraft, seemingly, according to my case, have no real protocols to deal with biohazard. The cleaning crews are not equipped to deal with that, and there's no real cross-check. No one's being held accountable. There's no oversight to make sure those planes are really clean. So I would say be very careful on an airplane. You have no idea what's in those carpets, and it doesn't seem to clean them very well.
And just seeing you with the gloves and the wet wipes, what really was going through your head when you found out that this was indeed blood that was there under your seat, and you were given these gloves and wet wipes now to clean it up yourself? What was going through your head there?
You know, it's really hard to be in that situation because you're in an aircraft, you're flying at 30,000 feet, you're not processing. I didn't know that it was a biohazard. I didn't know that it was really feces, or I didn't know most of the information. And I was bouncing around in the airplane, and I wanted to get back to my seat. I just knew that I had to get this smell out. So my instinct was just try to get this horrible smell off of my backpack. There was so much blood that it actually soaked into my bag that was underneath the seat in front of me. It was a kind of nerve-wracking situation, and it's really hard to think about all the things and dangers I was exposed to at that moment in time. It was only later that I started to realize more and more. And then when I left the aircraft, they sent me home with that bloody bag. They didn't even tell me to stop, and I didn't realize till I was walking through the airport that I'm still wearing it again. So again, it's 7 hours in the air, and this transatlantic flight, it's very kind of difficult to focus and to you're very anxious. So I'm starting to worry about it now. I don't know what I was in contact with.
Yeah, a horrifying situation indeed. Habib Battah, thank you so much for joining us here this morning, and we do hope that you reach a significant and a definitely an equitable situation or resolution when it comes to this issue. It's a tough one to really resolve, especially after you had to deal with that. So thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.